And welcome, sports fans, to today's roundtable. And we're coming down to the end of the fall season. We're into district tournament football. Here from this last week, this past Thursday and Friday, we had the first round of the district football games that we're going to get to in just a moment. And we're down to the final 8 in those district tournaments. And we'll take a look at those matchups going forward. And also volleyball is in state tournament play getting underway today. We'll go over those matchups from classes 1 through 4 in high school volleyball. So very exciting time in high school sports right now when it comes to football and volleyball, and we'll be crowning state champions in just a matter of weeks in both of those sports. And we've got quite a few teams locally participating in both the district tournaments and state tournament play in high school volleyball. So we'll keep it all, we'll have it all here for you here on the roundtable, as well as SEMOsportzone.com throughout the way. So be sure to tune in and keep up with all the local action concerning district and state tournament play here in southeast Missouri and across the state of Missouri. And talking about some results from last night in high school football, actually over Thursday and Friday night. Let's go to those scores from over the past few days. And starting with the game we had last night down in Piggott. It was Hoxie and Piggott, and it was Hoxie defeating Piggott 47-7. No problem for the Hoxie Mustangs. And Piggott had a tough time. Of course, this is the third-ranked team in the state. They're in Class 3A in Arkansas, a very good team. And Piggott just run into a better team last night. That's all it came down to. And that game will replay Sunday night at 6:30 and Tuesday night at 6. And it will be uploaded to YHCTV.com by early next week. So catch that game starting Sunday here on YHC. And taking a look at some other games from the past few nights in Class 1 District 1 football. And this is the round of 8 in these district tournaments. It was Portageville, 4th-seeded Portageville Bulldogs defeating the 5th-seeded St. Vincent 28-0. Portageville advances to the semifinals of that district tournament. And we'll talk about their matchup going forward. Also in other games in Class 1 District 1, it was... Yeah, let's go to the next one there. 3rd-seeded Chaffee over 6th-seeded Hayti, 34-12, and Chaffee advances to the semifinals as well. We've got Valle Catholic over Cabool. Valle Catholic, the top-ranked team in the state in Class 1, no problem with Cabool in that first-round game. And the other Class 1 District 1 game, 2nd-seeded Thayer over 7th-seeded Crystal City, 43-0. And in Class 2, District 1, Caruthersville over Grandview, 61-6. Big win for the Caruthersville Tigers. And 4th-seeded St. Pius over 5th-seeded Jefferson, 48-0. 2nd-seeded Malden over 7th East Prairie, 58-14. And 6th-seeded Scott City over 3rd-seeded Charleston, 20-14. And quite an upset there, Scott City over Charleston at 6 over 3rd seed. And in Class 3, District 1, top-seeded Park Hill Central, no problem with Live for Life, 49-0. 4th-seeded Fredericktown over 5th-seeded New Madrid County Central in overtime. And that wasn't 32-0. I believe it was 32-26. That final score was between Fredericktown and New Madrid County Central. And other games in Class 3 District 1, 2nd-seeded St. Genevieve over 7th-seeded Kennett, 55-30. So Kennett goes down for the year, not putting up bad effort. Not too many teams can put up 30 points against St. Genevieve. But St. Genevieve moves on to the semifinals. And also 3rd-seeded Potosi over 6th-seeded Dexter, 33-13. That brings it into the Dexter Bearcats season. Potosi moves on to the semifinals. And Class 4 District 1, top-seeded Hillsboro over 8th-seeded DeSoto, 43-7. And also we've got 5th-seeded North County bringing it into Sikeston season with a victory of 21-13. I think that might have been 21-14, but nonetheless, a touchdown spread between those two teams, North County and Sikeston. And also second-seeded Cape Central over 7th Perryville, 63-12. Big win for the Cape Central Tigers. And also third-seeded Festus over 6th-seeded Perryville, 55-12. Fourth-seeded Rockwood Summit over 5th-seeded Fox, 39-7. Third-seeded Poplar Bluff over 6th-seeded Seckman, 34-6. And Poplar Bluff advances to the semifinals. And some big matchups taking place next week in high school football to look forward to. And also some volleyball matchups taking place today in the sectional and quarterfinal rounds. So after today, we'll know the Final Four matchups for high school volleyball. So very exciting time currently in high school sports. So we'll talk about those matchups in our next segment. Before we go to the next segment, we want to go to our rankings, both local and for the state in high school football and volleyball. And going to our final regular season poll of the SEMO 15 poll from SEMOsportzone.com. A few changes this week. Jackson still at number 1, 2 Park Hills Central, 3 Cape Central, 4 Valle Catholic moving up from 5th, 5th Caruthersville up from 6, 6 St. Genevieve up from 7, and Sikeston falls down to number 7 from number 4, 8 Poplar Bluff, 9 Malden up from 10, 10 Chaffee down from 9, 11 Fredericktown up from 12, 12 Farmington down from 11, and our last 3 ranks unchanged with New Matter County Central, Dexter, and Kennett. And that's your SEMO 15 poll from SEMOsportzone.com. And the final regular season poll for the state rankings from Missouri Sports Writers and Broadcasters. For Class 1, Valle Catholic finishing undefeated, 9-0. 2 Westron, 3 Cass Midway, 4 Milan, 5 Hamilton, 6 Salisbury, 7 Osceola, 8 Jasper, 9 East Buchanan, and a two-way tie for number 10, Chaffee and South Harrison. And in Class 2, Mountain View Liberty fishes an undefeated 9-0, and number 1, 2 Lamar, 3 Stratford, 4 Mountain Grove, 5 Caruthersville, 6 South Callaway, 7 Lafayette County, 8 Blair Oaks, 9 Palmyra, and 10 Brentwood. In Class 3, Maryville at number 1, 2 John Burroughs, 3 O'Fallon Christian, 4 Oak Grove, 5 California, 6 Duchesne, 7 Reed Spring, 8 Park Hills Central, 9 Hogan Prep, and 10 Centralia. In Class 4, Webb City at number 1, 2 Bolivar, 3 Jeff City Helias, 4 Moberly, 5 Coral Junction, 6 Pleasant Hill, 7 Harrisonville, 8 Westminster Academy, 9 Ladue, and 10 Miller Career Academy. And in Class 5, Lee Summit West at number 1, 2 Fort Osage, 3 Parkway Central, 4 Kickapoo, 5 Kirkwood, 6 Nixa, 7 Kearney, 8 Webster Groves, 9 Camden, and 10 Fort Zumwalt East. And those are your football rankings for the state of Missouri for the final regular season poll. And moving on to volleyball. These rankings went unchanged for a few weeks, but here's the final poll. Number 1, Winona for Class 1, 2 Osceola, 3 Sacred Heart, 4 Kansas City Lutheran, 5 Stover, 6 Midway, 7 Pierce City, 8 Bismarck, 9 Mound City, and 10 Bernie. In Class 2, number 1 Fatima, 2 St. Pius, 3 El Dorado Springs, 4 Fair Grove, 5 Mountain Grove, 6 Mountain View Liberty, 7 Jefferson, 8 Herman, 9 Bishop LeBlond, and 10 Southwest. In Class 3, St. Francis Borgia at number 1, 2 Villa Duchesne, 3 Visitation Academy, 4 St. Dominic, 5 Perryville, 6 Logan Rogersville, 7 Pleasant Hill, 8 O'Hara, 9 Lutheran South, and 10 St. Genevieve. And in Class 4, Lafayette at number 1, 2 St. Joseph's Academy, 3 Liberty, 4 Ozark, 5 Park Hills South, 6 Parkway West, 7 Rockbridge, 8 Jefferson City, 9 Lee Summit West, and 10 Jeff City Helias. And those are your volleyball rankings for the state of Missouri. And that's our final regular season poll. We won't have another poll for both football and volleyball until the end of the season for that final poll, and we'll be looking forward to that in just a few weeks. And we're going to take a break and be back with Travis Quertermous, and he's going to be along with us to talk about these football matchups going forward. We're into the semifinal round now of district play in high school football, and also we'll take a look at the high school volleyball matches taking place today in both the sectional and quarterfinal rounds. So don't go away. We'll be back with that coming.
Welcome to NFL Total Access,
the show that takes you inside the locker room and down on the field. With inside access to all 32 teams all year long. NFL Total Access, Monday through Saturday, only on NFL Network.
NFL Network, where football season never ends.
I'm married, I have a child, and my someday was when my job got shipped to Mexico. So I took charge and went to Three Rivers College. It opened doors I couldn't imagine. Better job, better pay. My certification in green diesel technology at Three Rivers took less than 2 years. Didn't cost a lot either. My future's never looked greener. Three Rivers College. Turn your someday into graduation day.
Take your first step toward a stronger, more fulfilling career. Make your someday today. Enroll now at Three Rivers College.
First Midwest Bank Gold Club offers special privileges for our friends who are age 50 or better and have combined deposits of $5,000. Members enjoy trips, cruises, seminars, and picnics along with free personalized bank services. Upcoming trips include Journey Through the Holy Land, Yellowstone in winter, Classic Ireland, and Hawaiian Paradise Cruise. Stop by any First Midwest Bank location to sign up for the Gold Club. It's absolutely free. First Midwest Bank, providing common sense financial solutions every day.
And now we're along with Travis Quertermous, and he's along with us to talk about these football matchups taking place, actually the ones that took place over the weekend, Thursday and Friday in the first round. And now we're into the semifinal round, and it's getting pretty exciting, Travis, these matchups getting into district play. And, of course, it's a different format starting from last year and continuing this year with tournament play and district play, which gives it a little added dimension of, win and advance.
Well, that's exactly right. No real surprises in the district quarterfinal round with the exception of Scott City upsetting Charleston. So the teams that were expected to win, the higher seeds, all did win. It certainly creates some exciting matchups for the semifinal round on Wednesday night.
Sure. And let's take a look at some of those brackets and the matchups that took place. Starting with Class 1, we'll start with the smaller schools here, and Valle Catholic advances no problem. You don't see a whole lot of upsets with the exception of the game that we mentioned in the first round. Valle Catholic and Portageville advance, and Thayer and Chaffee advance. And, well, this is a pretty strong semifinal round here with Valle Catholic and Portageville, Thayer and Chaffee, even though Valle Catholic's in the driver's seat, and they always have been in that Class 1 District 1.
Exactly right. The perennial kings of Class 1, undefeated, ranked number 1, the prohibitive favorite to win their 12th state championship. The semifinal matchup with Portageville is a rematch of last year's district championship. Portageville was riding high, their best season in years, and hosted the championship game, and the Valle Catholic Warriors and Tyler Fowler just came to town and just sort of rolled through there like a hurricane. Really beat up on Portageville. So I know that gives them motivation. Portageville is peaking at the right time. Cabool put 20 points up on them. You never say never. Of course, Valle will be the big favorite there. The real interesting matchup to me is the other semifinal game, though, between Chaffee and Thayer. A lot of people think Chaffee is a bit overrated, maybe a product of a soft schedule. I myself think that they're legit, but Thayer's going to be their toughest test of the whole season by far. They played their schedule is a little deceiving. They played a very difficult schedule for a Class 1 team, so they're a very good team, very good defense. So it's going to be interesting to see how Chaffee responds to this. I think they can win at home. They certainly have the offense to get it done. but it's going to be a real challenge for them, no doubt about it.
Certainly. So Chaffee having their best season in years, really come a long way. They're in Class 1, so they got a lot to be proud of, and they'll be looking to get in that championship round, facing presumably Valle Catholic, but we'll see what happens. It should be an exciting time for the Red Devils.
No doubt about it. Those young men should be very proud of themselves. Coach Charlie Vickery's done a great job over there with that program, and they've had a great season no matter how it turns out. All you can ask for is to play the best. Valle Catholic's the best in Class 1. You take your best shot, and it is what it is.
Valle Catholic, they're just something else for a school that small, and they play up with St. Gen that's right there.
They beat St. Gen, they beat New Madrid, so they're not afraid to move up in class and
they almost have to play some good the competition that they need to prepare for
and they win.
Season.
And that's the thing; they don't just go and compete; they go and win. Yeah. So great job there, great program, and as I said, they're the prohibitive favorite to get state championship number 12 this year.
Yeah, we'll see how it all goes forward in that Class 1 tournament. Now going to Class 2, kind of the same theme with Class 2 District 1. Caruthersville, they're at number 1, and they'll take on St. Pius and Scott City, upsetting Charleston, as we mentioned. They're in the semifinals with Malden, and it's kind of the same song, different verse with Class 2. Caruthersville at top number 1, and you're going to go through Caruthersville to win that district, and they'll certainly look to get past St. Pius with no problem. And Malden and Scott City, not a matchup you would expect there in the semifinals, but
no, that's exactly right.
Malden playing some pretty good ball at this point. They've had some big wins coming down the stretch here.
Yeah, Malden's a good football team. I don't think they'll have a lot of trouble with Scott City, but we didn't think Charleston would have much trouble with Scott City either. So they played a practically perfect game, no turnovers. Scott City played very well after a week off. They had a bye week, the last week of the regular season, and so they're feeling good about themselves right now. Malden did put a pretty good thumping on them earlier, so I'm sure they'll be motivated to get to have a better showing. But I don't think the Rams have much of a shot going down to the swamp and beating Malden. They've got a good football team. We saw that in that big comeback win against Dexter late in the season. They didn't hang their heads. They were down by 19 points at the half, and they just came roaring back. Good coaching staff down there at Malden. They'll be well prepared.
Yeah, they've been looking good, and they've had some injuries, but they've moved some kids around, and they're playing some pretty good football. And they've been solid over the past few years. They've done a great job down there.
As far as Caruthersville goes, they played without Daryl Monroe in their quarterfinal game against Grandview. They held him out, I think wisely so. He tweaked his ankle up at St. Genevieve in the final regular season game. I think he could have played if they had needed him, but obviously they didn't need him. Grandview came in without a win, and so they were able to win big without him. He'll be back on the field, I have no doubt, against St. Pius. St. Pius is an interesting team. They stumbled coming out of the gate, lost 2 of their first 3, but then they've really been on a roll. Valle Catholic put a pretty good thumping on them, but but what's new about that? So they come in winning 6 out of 7, coming out of Festus down to Caruthersville, and they'll be fired up, ready to play. But Caruthersville's won 9 out of 10 in this district, and I don't think they've got much of a shot. But we'll see.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll be praying that Daryl Monroe's still got that.
Hold him out one more week. Hold him out one more week. But listen, that's a very talented football team, and Daryl had a lot of injury problems last year, and Caruthersville marched all the way to the Final Four in Class 2. So that's a good football team down there, and they can win. Daryl's their main weapon, of course, really on both sides of the ball, but they've got a lot of talent around him, as they showed again on Thursday night, winning big without him.
Yeah, I think Caruthersville's done what they can to preserve him as best they can. Of course, he's going to be a feature basically on offense and defense, but they've preserved him, I think, as much as they could. He doesn't play a lot of fourth quarters. I don't know if he's played in the fourth quarter all year long, with the exception of maybe Mountain View Liberty and St. Genevieve. So they've been pretty smart with him because they know they're going to need him down the stretch.
Exactly, and I really wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't carry the ball very often, even Wednesday night. I think they'll probably play mostly on defense because they know got a pretty good Malden football team coming to town in the championship round, and I'm sure they're going to want him hitting on all cylinders, ready for that championship game.
Yeah. Emphasis on hitting.
Hitting, exactly. Hitting, yes.
Yeah, he'll lay some licks on you, so we'll be looking forward to how that wraps up there in Class 2. And in Class 3, very competitive district here. And Park Hill Central, the number 1 seed, they'll be taking on Fredericktown. And 3rd seeded Potosi will advance to take on 2nd seeded St. Genevieve. And the attention in this tournament is Park Hill Central and St. Genevieve. They're right there neck and neck at number 1 and 2. You would assume that they're going to advance and play each other, and they went down to the wire, as I understand it, earlier in the season.
Right. Park Hill Central beat St. Gen in St. Gen. They beat them 17-14. Very close football game, very competitive. 2 very evenly matched teams. The semifinals should hold no real surprises there. Rematches of regular season games. Park Hill Central beat Fredericktown pretty handily, and same with St. Gen. They beat Potosi pretty handily. So I think we should see those 2 teams again in the championship. It'll be at Park Hill Central this time. One interesting thing about Park Hill Central, they're undefeated. They've got 6 shutouts coming in. That's a very powerful defense. They've only given up 27 points. 14 of those 27 were to the St. Gen Dragons. But the offense, Park Hills is known for playing that ball control, smash mouth football. And they usually don't beat you maybe 21-0. I mean, it's not a gaudy blowout most of the time. But they usually control the clock, control the football, and they beat you that way. But the last few weeks, they have unveiled a spread offense. They shocked Dexter. Dexter was prepared for that, load the box, try to slow that running game down, and then all of a sudden here in the second quarter, they come out 4 wide, throw that spread offense out, and throw the ball around very successfully. That's one thing they didn't do, I don't think, against St. Gen the first time they played. So the Dragons will have to get ready for that. But again, 2 very good coaching staffs here, 2 evenly matched teams. John Burroughs looms on the horizon in the next round for whoever comes out of Class 3 District 1. Always a big hurdle to try to overcome. I look for Park Hill Central to win the game. I think they're just a little bit better on both sides of the ball than St. Gen this year. And so barring big injuries, a lot of turnovers by the Rebels, which they normally don't do, I think they advance. And that'll be a very interesting matchup looming against John Burroughs. Yeah. John Burroughs always, of course, very loaded. They've competed for the state championship in Class 3. Haven't quite got it done the last couple of years, but they're always solid, always good, and we'll see how the District 1 challenger can do against them this year.
Yeah,
be a good game.
That's a good tournament there in that Class 3 District 1. It's been competitive, especially with St. Genevieve and Park Hill Central there at the top of the district. So it'll be fun to see who comes out of that there in Class 3. And moving up to Class 4, we've got Hillsboro, they're the number 1 seed. They'll take on not Sikeston, a little typo there. North County defeated Sikeston in the quarterfinals, and 3rd seeded Festus will take on 2nd seeded Cape Central. So Hillsboro versus North County, Festus and Cape Central. And that was a little shocker there. North County defeated Sikeston on their home field, and Sikeston not used to being out of the football this early in the season.
That's true. Sikeston had a lot of injuries. They really they had a brilliant first half of the season, going 5-0, and then they lose 4 out of 5 in the second half of the season. A lot of injuries, I think, finally caught up to Sikeston. Never really got a lot of production out of the quarterback position this year. They tried a different starter against North County, but they just really couldn't get much going offensively once again, and that was really the story of Sikeston's season, especially in the second half. Not a big shocker. I think a lot of people predicted North County would come in there and win. They've got a kid by the name of Wyatt Compton, who's got an older brother playing professional football for the Washington Redskins, and he's a Division I prospect as well, and he really took the game over, had over 100 yards passing and close to that rushing, if memory serves. So he kind of does it all for North County. Now they've got an interesting rematch with Hillsboro. Hillsboro's lost 1 game this year, and that was to North County. And North County beat them pretty handily back middle part of the season. 55-33, I believe, was the final. So that'll be interesting. Can Hillsboro get it done?
North County beat Hillsboro?
North County beat Hillsboro, the only game that Hillsboro's dropped this year.
That's strange. It's that much of a difference in seeds when they had such a
That's
big
true,
win.
but I think it was the only game that Hillsboro lost. North County came in with I think the same record as Sikeston. They were 6-3, so just enough point differential there. Of course, with Festus and Cape Central at the bottom half of the bracket, that's a rematch from the final regular season game that the defenses didn't bother to show up for. It was like 62-55, and literally the Cape Central got the ball last and they won the game. I mean, you hear about it. Whoever gets the ball last will win. It's kind of a cliche in football, but it came true in that game. And so this will probably be another shootout, and you just flip a coin who will come out of that. Cape's peaking at the right time. They've got the game at home. They should win, but that game will probably come down to turnovers and field position, and whoever gets the better end of that, and who maybe gets the ball last again, likely to come out and face the Hillsboro North County. Wide open district, by far the most wide open that we have here in southeast Missouri. And there's just no telling which of those 4 teams is going to come out on top. I personally think it'll be Hillsboro. I think they've been the most consistent all the way through. But Cape Central's peaking at the right time. Festus has been very good, high-powered offense, and we've already talked about North County. So these are 4 very evenly matched teams, and anything could happen, really.
Yeah, that makes it interesting, especially with 4 teams. Having 4 teams having a legit chance at winning it, that'll make it even more interesting going forward. And Cape Central, a team that's made some waves over the past few years, they could come away with a district championship this year, and that'd be big for their program. Sikeston's kind of had the anchor on that district, right, and had the good teams advancing far into the state tournament, and Cape Central might be that team to kind of step up there in Class 4 now.
They really are peaking offensively at the right time. They're scoring a lot of points. And here lately, they've just had to outscore their opponents. Even 7th-ranked Farmington put 28 on them. So defense has been sketchy up in Cape Central the whole season. I think eventually that's going to come back to get them, and it may come back to get them against Festus this Wednesday night. But we'll just see. Again, 4 very evenly matched teams, and really anything could happen. You could just almost pick a name out of the hat. They're all just pick-em games, I think. Yeah.
So we'll see. Very interesting Class 4 this year. And taking a look at Class 5, Vianney is the top overall seed, and they'll take on Rockwood Summit, and Jackson will take on Poplar Bluff. And some interesting matchups, of course, there. If you look at the bottom, Jackson and Poplar Bluff, both southeast Missouri teams, and there'll be a lot riding on this game. Jackson has had a great season, but they've lost a few late. Of course, they're playing some good competition in their schedule. But fine season. And Poplar Bluff getting some momentum with that decisive victory over Seckman last night, or I think it was Thursday night they had their game.
Friday.
Last night. Mm-hmm. And, they're going to be pumped for that Jackson game, but going to the pit in Jackson is going to be a tough one.
Tough one, yes, indeed. They had a shot at Jackson at home earlier in the season in the conference game. And I don't remember either. Poplar Bluff was either leading the game or it was tied at halftime. Low-scoring game in the first half. And then Jackson just really poured it on them in the second half. So a tall order for Poplar Bluff. They have been playing much better since they lost to Jackson. But I think a tall order for the Mules. I don't think they're going to go into the pit and come out with a win there. Vianney, of course, should have no trouble with Rockwood Summit. Division I prospect running back Markel Smith. He's got over 2,000 yards on the season, and he's just a force to be reckoned with. And that'll set up a big rematch up in Vianney. This is where the appeals process really came into play in district, because by the points, Jackson was the number 1 seed and Vianney was the number 2 seed. But of course, when you beat a team that's ranked ahead of you head to head, you can appeal. And Vianney appealed, and they won their appeal, so they took over the number 1 slot. And that'll be huge. Mm-hmm. Of course, Vianney coming to the pit is a much different environment for Jackson than Jackson having to go up north to beat Vianney on their home field. So Vianney handled Jackson pretty easily early in the season. But that was early on. Jackson was missing some key football players. It'll be a much closer game. I still think Vianney probably will win, but Jackson certainly got the firepower to get it done.
Yeah, that's one program that's really stepped it up in just a short period of time, just over the past 2 seasons. They finished well last year, come back even stronger this year, and Jackson's looking like the old Jackson. They've really stepped it up and started playing well.
You really have to give the new coaching staff credit. They came in there last season and just really turned it around. Before that, the last 2 or 3 seasons, I think Jackson won, 3 or 4 games combined over those seasons. Mm-hmm. So they were really struggling, and they're back to playing Jackson football, at least in terms of wins and losses.
Yeah, that's a very prideful school when it comes to football.
No doubt.
You won't find in southeast Missouri a bigger program when it comes to falling football and how much enthusiasm there is around football than Jackson. if you go to any high school football field to watch a football game, you need to go watch one in the pit. There's nothing like it.
It's really a special environment, no doubt about it.
Packed out, and you're right on the field. There's no track around the field that separates you from the stands from the field, and you're just right on top of the benches. And I tell you, if you're an opposing team coming in there, it's got to really wear on you, because especially if you're a visiting team, on the other side, there's Jackson's a big enough school where typically a football field will have a home side and a visitor side. Now, Jackson brings enough people to the game that they fill up one side and pretty much half or three-fourths of the other side.
That's true.
On the visitor side, on their bench, right behind them is the home fans, and it's usually the student section going nuts. So it's quite an atmosphere, and it's a big home field advantage for the Indians.
And it'll be packed Wednesday night, no doubt about it, for when the Mules come to town. So Poplar Bluff fans, get there and get there early. Cheer your team on. Yeah. They'll play hard, no doubt. Poplar Bluff will play hard.
Yeah, they've come a long ways too. They've
got a nice little running back over there in B. Wynn. He's over 1,700 yards, set a school record this year. So he's having a big season. Dark horse candidate, I think, for the Carr Trophy. But I just at the end of the day, I just think Poplar Bluff. I mean, Jackson's just got too many weapons, and they're pretty solid defensively as well, and that's going to be the difference in the game.
Yeah, we'll see. Should be a good matchup there. And those are the football matchups to look forward to this coming week, and we'll be crowning some district champions before you know it. And then right after the district tournaments, you go right into the round of 8. That's the quarterfinal round going forward in state tournament play. So they pretty much took out that sectional round that was part of the state tournament. Now we got, basically they took the 2 neighboring districts, 4 teams, combined them to make an 8-team district. And what's your viewpoint of how the district tournament's gone now that we're in year 2 of this format?
I don't think there's been a lot of surprises. I think it's worked pretty much the way people expected it would. When there's been a questionable seating, you have the appeals process that's pretty well got things right. Some teams benefited from that. We talked about one team that benefited from that a moment ago. Scott City benefited from that. They were seated 7th behind East Prairie, but they beat East Prairie head-to-head, and that meant that Scott City got to go to Charleston instead of having to go play Malden. And so that changed, obviously, the way things unfolded. I don't think there's any doubt Charleston would have had an much easier time beating East Prairie than they did with Scott City. So the seeding process, I think it's unfolded pretty much the way everybody thought it would. So no real complaints. I wasn't a big fan of it when it comes in. It seemed too much like the BCS in college football to me, and I'm not a big numbers guy anyway. Math was never my strong suit. But I have to say it's worked out. I think people complain about the first round blowouts, but you see that in basketball too. So I think on the whole it's done what they wanted it to do. I know one change they're going to make next year is there won't be any Thursday night and Wednesday night games. Everything gets played on Friday and Saturday, and I like that change. As a minister especially, because then that doesn't interfere with church on Wednesday night.
So what change are they making now?
Everything will be played on Friday and Saturday night next season.
So instead of Thursday and Friday?
There will be no Thursday and Wednesday night games.
Okay.
So everything and I think that keeps everybody on schedule. Your regular season games are all on Friday and a few on Saturday anyway. So I think that's a good change that Misha has made. But it's worked, and I think that's the bottom line in athletics.
And we haven't had a tournament format in district play for so long. It's typically for the longest time it was the 4 teams in a district. And you basically play a round robin. Each plays everybody, and whoever basically had the best record or head-to-head wins, they would advance. And that it was kind of different just getting away from that format. Then we went to the top 2 teams from each district, and now we went to this tournament format, and it kind of just puts it right there in the same format as all the other sports, the tournament format going forward. And it probably makes it a little bit more exciting when it comes to the district games, just because you win in advance, and that next round's always the round robin, you kind of get lost in it, who's played who and what the record is. So it probably makes it a little bit more exciting with the tournament format. Basically survive in advance. Everyone kind of likes that concept.
It's a little more straightforward than the round robin system, as you mentioned before. Again, I think it's worked pretty much the way everybody thought it was going to work. And as the old saying goes, the cream rises to the top. The best teams are going to win. Occasionally, you're going to see a shocking upset, but for the most part, I think the teams that everybody thinks should be there at the end usually are there, and that's what you want.
Yeah. The only thing I thought that they would do with the tournament format is what they've do with the other sports. I thought the coaches would come together and seed the brackets, the tournaments, rather than depend on the point system, because there's so many holes in it. As you said, the head-to-head matchups. One team will have the better number, right. I guess, number rank. So they're up, and then they have that appeals process as if
right. Yeah, the appeals only come in when you're ranked behind. You have your one spot behind a team you beat head to head. So just like we said a moment before, North County beat Hillsboro, but they're seated 5th, and Hillsboro's seated 1st. So you can't appeal and jump all the way to number 1. It has to be a situation like, for example, with New Madrid and Dexter. New Madrid beat Dexter head to head. But by the points at the end of the season, Dexter was 5th and New Madrid was 6th. But they appealed, and so they leapfrogged Dexter and got to go up to Fredericktown instead of having to go up and play a much better Potosi team like Dexter had to do. But still, the seeding's held, and Fredericktown and Potosi both advanced. So, yeah, there's been an argument for that, whether or not the coaches should just come together and seed them, whether you go with the point system. One thing I was fearful of is that the point system rewards you for margin of victory, and so one thing that I was afraid would come to pass, and it hasn't so far, but one thing I think to keep an eye on is whether or not you're going to see bigger schools start to schedule some weaker schools and take some of the stronger schools off their schedule, because if they beat them and beat them convincingly, then they're rewarded for that. That's one thing I think to keep an eye on as far as a wrinkle that may need to be ironed out. On the other hand, they do reward you for strength of schedule points as well. So, it's kind of a balance there between the two factors. I think that's something to keep an eye on as we go forward, whether teams maybe water down their schedule just a little bit to try to take advantage of that and pick up some easy points to get a higher seeding at the end of the
And the thing is, too, I don't think you're necessarily penalized for playing a weaker schedule. You're only rewarded if you play a tougher one. So
you're rewarded when you play up.
Yeah.
So depending on the point differential, if a Class 2 team plays a Class 3 team, then they're rewarded with 10 points automatically, win, lose, or draw. But you're also awarded extra points if you win by 13 plus. You get bonus points. So I was concerned that you might see teams water down their schedule a little bit to try to take advantage of that. Teams they know they're fairly confident they can beat and beat handily. But maybe some of these smaller schools are wise to that and not going to fall into that trap. So we'll just see how it shakes out going forward. If there proves to be major problems along that line, then they may tweak it and just let the coaches come together and seed it.
Yeah. I can see, the discrepancy 1 and 5. Even,
right. You don't want to see Cape. You don't want to see Cape scheduling Hayti and Chaffee. And,
that won't happen.
Portageville.
Yeah. It's
I don't think that'll happen. I don't think the Cape coaches would be interested in doing that. I'm quite certain the small schools wouldn't be really interested in that.
Big difference between Class 1 and Class 4.
Exactly.
Certainly. Yeah. So I think it's going well, and the tournament format kind of clarifies it all to where it's survive and advance. The matchups that are coming, and there's always kind of guessing game who's playing who and what's left in the schedule when in the old district format. But I think it's good to have the tournament format going forward. They're probably it's a little downside to it. Some teams are only going to have 4 home games every other year, with a 9-game schedule. So that's kind of the downside of it, but. I guess there's a downside in about every format you're going to have.
There's no perfect formula,
yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it'll be continued to be debated and discussed as we go forward.
Yeah. And we'll go on to the volleyball matchups, take a look at those that are taking place today. And after today, we'll have the Final Fours set for each class in high school volleyball. And taking a look at Class 1, in the top half of the tournament, we're into 16 teams remaining in these state tournaments, and this is the top half. Bernie will take on Lesterville today at 3 o'clock, and Gideon will take on Leopold following that game at 4:30. And these games are taking place in Leopold today on Saturday. And quite an interesting story around this, Travis, that if you want to just show up for this game, you're not going to be able to unless you've got a ticket. They had to sell tickets to each of the schools. I think they had around 100 or so to each school because Leopold's gym is limited when it comes to capacity. So if you're planning on going to this game, you need to make sure that you've got a ticket that I think the schools are actually distributing. So don't make the drive up if you don't have a ticket because you won't be allowed in. And
I've never heard of that before. That's a new one to me. In any sport, rationing the tickets out that way. But as you say, Leopold, small school, small gym, I'm sure they felt like they had to do that in order to be fair to all 4 schools.
Yeah, so
because otherwise it'd be a gym full of Leopold fans, I'm sure, and the Bernie people just have to listen to it on the radio or something. I don't know, but that wouldn't make them very happy.
Or just or listen from outside, and that kind of thing.
I wonder, does one ticket get you? Because I noticed that they're going to play the semifinal and finals both today. So one ticket gets you to into both games. That's what I'm not clear on that.
I guess if you got a ticket,
because 2 of those 4 teams are eliminated after the semifinal round.
I would assume that if you've got a team. If your team wins, you've got a ticket for that next game. Yeah. I would assume that.
So maybe a half-full gym there by the time
they had to clear everybody out and then bring them back in.
Ought to be. I think Leopold and Bernie will probably meet one another there in the championship game, and that'll be a good one. Both those teams have been ranked in the top 10 at some point in Class 1. Or are they both ranked? I know Bernie is ranked.
Yeah.
As I remember seeing the stats earlier.
I think, Bernie might have fallen out of that.
Leopold either has been or are ranked. So that'd be a good volleyball game.
Yeah, Leopold's expected to come out of there. They've had a strong year. But Bernie's been playing well at times this year.
Won their, 19th district championship here just recently. So that ought to be a good volleyball game.
Bernie went to the state championship last year.
They did, yes. So good program down there, well coached. Be a good matchup between those 2 squads.
Certainly will be. But that story right there is just
it's a different situation, no doubt.
I mean, you would almost expect it with basketball as much as attention's on basketball, but volleyball, it's you don't quite expect that story. But hey,
we'll have to follow up and see if it was a sellout.
A fire code broken from volleyball. That's a good story. Especially, you expect it because the good teams are playing. Bernie's they got a good following, and Leopold's going to have it in their home gym with.
Well, and the kids down at Lesterville are going to be excited too. I mean, you don't hear a lot about Lesterville sports, so anytime they get a team that advances this far along, they're going to be gung ho behind that. And unfortunately, they're probably not even going to get to go and see it, except for the parents of the girls involved and their grandparents. So we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, we'll see. And let's move on to Class 2. Take a look at that state tournament bracket. And those games will take place today as well. Woodland will take on St. Pius. And Portageville will take on Metro. And I didn't catch where those games are taking place today. But they're taking place today. And Woodland will play St. Pius at 1. And Portageville take on Metro at 2:30. And the quarterfinal game will follow at 4 o'clock. And the other games down the list there, St. Paul Lutheran versus Summit Christian, Cole Kemp taking on Bishop LeBlanc. So we got a couple more Southeast Missouri teams in Woodland and Portageville fighting for a chance to make the state Final Four with a sectional and quarterfinal victory today.
I think you have to give a shout out to the Lady Bulldogs down at Portageville. They won their first district championship ever, so they're going to be very excited. They upset the top-ranked Malden Lady Green Wave to win that championship. Woodland, the Lady Cardinals, they've been solid all season long. They've had a very good season. I think they'll probably come out of that with the championship.
We'll see. Very competitive teams here in Southeast Missouri. Now moving up to Class 3, we got Windsor taking on Lutheran South, Perryville versus University High, Green Valley versus St. Pius, a different St. Pius. That's out of Kansas City, I believe it is, yeah. And O'Hara taking on Savannah. And most Southeast Missouri team there is Perryville. They've had a strong program the past few years. They won their second straight district championship, and David Murley's done a great job with that bunch up there in Perryville, and they look to make another run this year.
Yeah, they're ranked 5th in Class 3. They had a pretty stacked district. Both Notre Dame and Dexter were in that district. and they were seeded 1, 2, 3, Perryville 1, Notre Dame 2, and Dexter 3, and that's kind of the way it turned out. 4 of Dexter's 5 losses were to Notre Dame, and 3 of Notre Dame's 4 losses were to Perryville. And Perryville ended up beating Notre Dame in the championship, and Notre Dame beat Dexter in the semifinals. But that was really a loaded district. 3 really good teams there, and the Perryville Lady Pirates have been solid for quite some time now, and they should make a return trip to the Final Four, I have no doubt.
Yeah. And in Class 4, take a look at Class 4, District 1, and only 4 classes in volleyball in the state of Missouri. Oakville will take on Lafayette, Farmington versus St. Joseph's Academy. Blue Springs taking on Park Hill South, Lee Summit West taking on Liberty. And Farmington, the most Southeast Missouri team there. Don't know much about that Farmington volleyball team, but they've got a chance to advance on to the Final Four with a couple victories today.
Yeah, they knocked Jackson off in their district championship, and I think that was a bit of an upset. But so good luck to the Farmington Lady Knights, and hopefully they'll go ahead and advance to the Final Four as well.
Yeah, one interesting note about high school volleyball, their Final Four state semifinals and finals are in Cape Girardeau at the Show Me Center. They've had
second year in a row for that.
I think it's actually more than that.
Is it more? I know they had it there last year.
Going on 3 years, I believe,
okay.
now. It's been there in Cape Girardeau, and that's good because for the longest time it was in Kansas City. They had it up there in Kansas City, so it was a long haul. It was a long haul across the state. So I guess it's our turn to get it on our half or our corner of the state now.
No complaints there, I'm sure, especially for the parents and schools here in Southeast Missouri.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll have several teams represented there. Either Woodland, Bernie, Leopold, Perryville, Farmington. Got several that have an excellent chance to be there at the end.
Yeah, and not very far to go.
Not very far to go.
That makes it even better. So.
And you won't have to have a ticket to get in.
Yeah, you'll be able to get seated there.
Show Me Center has plenty of seating, so don't worry about that.
Start to fill these gyms for volleyball. It's great. So we'll be looking forward to seeing how these volleyball tournaments shake out for state tournament play. It's going to be very exciting, and we'll be getting closer to football, getting into state tournament play here in the next week. So we'll see how everything turns out here in just the next few weeks. And Travis, anything else to add, or have anything going on locally?
No, of course, here in Dexter now we're looking forward to basketball and wrestling.
Yeah.
So the Dexter program, Dexter football team, they struggled again this season. They improved a lot over the second half of the season. They've got most of their starters coming back for next year. And some of the competition, very senior-loaded teams this year. So we're looking forward to big things from the Dexter Bearcats in football next year, and looking forward to better things, hopefully, in both basketball and wrestling. Basketball for both the boys and the girls just right around the corner. So still a lot of great sports action to look forward to here in Southeast Missouri.
Certainly.
Hopefully we'll have a few teams up in the dome in football as well.
Yeah. I got some teams that might be able to make a run, so we'll see how it all plays out. And Travis, we appreciate you coming up.
Thank you for having me again.
It's getting a very exciting time, and all the fall sports taking place. And before you know it, we'll be into basketball and wrestling, like you said, and we'll make that transition in a matter of weeks. So we'll be looking forward to that as well. And we'll be seeing you down the road, Travis. And as always
a pleasure.
Good to have you on.
Thank you.
All right. And we're going to come back and close with some college football and pro football taking place this weekend. So don't go away.
It's the small things in life that you tend to appreciate. The quality of care at SEMO Health Network is no different. They focus on the small details with healthcare that make you feel good, so you can get back to enjoying the small things in no time. They have so many ways to take care of you, with 8 locations serving rural communities in need of medical care, including dental facilities and an in-house laboratory.
You'll feel good about this. SEMO Health Network. I want to stay connected to you. I like the way you do what you do. All right, okay, you're fine.
Call Audubell Hearing Center at 1-800-499-8786 or visit one of our locations in Dexter and Poplar, Bluff, Missouri today.
Let's take a look at some college football taking place this weekend, and some games to look forward to. Some decent games to look forward to this weekend. 24th ranked Wisconsin at Iowa in the Big Ten. Mississippi State at 14th ranked South Carolina. And the SEC, 21st ranked Michigan at 22nd ranked Michigan State. Navy at 25th ranked Notre Dame. 11th ranked Auburn at Arkansas. Tennessee at 9th ranked Missouri. 18th ranked Oklahoma State at 15th ranked Texas Tech. 7th ranked Miami at 3rd ranked Florida State. That's a big matchup there. Battle of those Florida schools. Should be a big-time matchup between those two schools later on tonight. And the local teams, we've got Arkansas State at South Alabama in the Sun Belt Conference, and Urbana at SEMO. And I'm not sure what Urbana is. They might be an NAIA school. I'm not exactly sure. They're not in the OVC. I know that for sure. But hopefully Mizzou can pick up their second win of the season later on today. And in NFL football this weekend, the Chiefs at the Bills, the undefeated Chiefs. Come off a 2-14 season last year. They only left undefeated team. And that's going to be a tough one there in Buffalo. Buffalo Bills aren't just a scheduled win each year now. They've been playing quite well, especially defensively, and that's a matchup. If they can hold the Chiefs' points down, they've got a chance to win that game. So that'll be an interesting game up there in Buffalo for Sunday. Also, the Vikings at the Cowboys, Titans at the Rams, Saints at the Jets, Chargers at the Redskins, Falcons at the Panthers, the Ravens at the Browns, the Steelers at the Patriots, and Sunday Night Football, the Colts at the Texans, and the Bears at the Packers for Monday Night Football. So those are the pro football matchups to look forward to Sunday and Monday. And that's all we've got for you today and for the roundtable. We appreciate you for tuning in. Be sure to tune in every week. We want to give you updates on everything happening with volleyball and football postseason action. Very exciting time. So be sure to tune in for all those, and we'll be here for you each Saturday at 10 a.m. live. And, of course, for the replays, be sure to check out SemoSportsZone.com for all the updated action here in southeast Missouri. And until next week, I'm Tyler Wagner. Have yourself a great week.